Hi, welcome to day 3 of Solitude. I hope everything's going well in your household, that you've really been able to enjoy a couple of days of kind of collecting yourself and getting a routine going. Today I wanted to just follow up on a couple of items from yesterday. The first one being really looking at, being intentional about maintaining connections and or restoring connections with people, making sure that we have something on the calendar or the agenda to look forward to, and something that will be a blessing, hopefully, for you as well as for the person that you're able to reach out to. So, just hoping that you've had a chance to be able to schedule some of those connections, whether it's a video call or whether it's just a phone call, even taking the time to send somebody a thoughtful note just to brighten their day during this period. And the other thing is I've just thrown out a whole bunch of ideas in terms of things to do to spend your time and how to use this productively, or even just to really make it more enjoyable. And I'm hoping that some of those really connected with you and that you've had a chance to figure out if there are a few of those that might really be perfect just for you. So today, let's talk a little bit about kind of how anxiety manifests for you. I want you to think about when you're feeling an additional level of stress, and I think the situation we're in is for sure at least an additional level of stress. When you're in those types of spaces, how does that really manifest for you in your life? How does it manifest in your behaviors? How does it manifest in your thoughts? Where does your mind tend to go when you've got like one more level of stress on top of everything else? Do you get into panic mode? Do you tend to think the worst? Do you do a lot of what ifs or worrying? And in those cases, what I want us to really think about is how do we focus on what we control? So there's so much going on right now, as per usual, that we don't control. So what do you control at any given moment in time? And it's only 3 things. So that's nice and simple. It's what you think, it's what you say, and it's what you do. So if you know that you're feeling a sense of panic or anxiety, it's really important to step back and look at what are my thoughts, because our thoughts drive our feelings. So if I'm feeling panicked, if I'm feeling anxious, the chances are that there is just a whole litany of thoughts in my head that are feeding that sense of anxiety and panic. A really helpful action tool for today is if you find yourself in that space of feeling anxious or panicky or even just worry, I'd like you to grab a notebook or a journal and just jot down, just do a really quick thought inventory and just list them all out. That gives you a chance to be able to interact with the thoughts more, to be able to reflect on them, to be able to challenge them, to really look at, are these thoughts that are based on facts, or are these thoughts that are based on limited information, opinions, half-baked ideas? Like what is that about? So really interacting more with your thoughts, noticing them, recognizing that your thoughts are just thoughts. They're not necessarily anything more than just the production of your own mind, which is based on your past experiences, beliefs, interpretations of things, and those become habits and patterns. So when we look at those thoughts, we can see our habits and patterns, and that gives us a chance, that gives us an opportunity to be more psychologically flexible, to interact, to push back, to ask ourselves, is that true? Do I know that for a fact? And I just want you to encourage you to be in that space today. The other thing that I wanted to reflect on just a bit is when I worked with the military in San Antonio, and I was specifically working a lot with PTSD, one of the themes that I noticed was just people would come back from deployments with a real addiction to the news. And it was alerts on their phone, having it up on their computer at work all the time, just almost a constant hypervigilance of monitoring and checking. And it was based around this narrative that said, in order to be prepared, I have to know what's going on all the time. And that level of intensity in terms of gathering information and then a sense of responsibility for how do I now mitigate anything that might come out as a result of this, when, back to focusing on what we control, it's such a limited amount of things that we actually do control. This news, constant watching, taking in the alerts that ping us and grab our attention and kind of almost jolt us out of whatever we're doing. So I'd really encourage you today to take a break from the news. And I'm not saying don't be informed. I'm just saying we do not need 24/7 news in order to be broadly informed about what's going on. So limiting how much time you spend on it. I'd love for you to just take like a day break where you have no more than maybe 10 minutes where you look into the news. Figure out what's the best news source, like what do you consider to be the most reliable for the type of information you're looking for. Access that, but do it intentionally, do it time limited. You know how this goes. We go onto a web page and then we're in a news site, article and there's a link to the next one and a link to the next one and something's going to grab us. And so it's just a rabbit hole and it ends up sucking up hours of our time. So I just want to encourage you to spend a day without that and notice that. Notice how that impacts how you feel overall. And be aware too of how it feels when you're in that constant monitoring, when you're in that really alert-based space. And just try to be really intentional about limiting that, limiting the amount of anxiety that we are introducing into your day-to-day. So that's our tips for today. I hope that you're able to embrace that and do something with that. It's really just trying to do a thought log whenever you notice yourself worrying or feeling anxious so that you can interact with those thoughts more. And the second part is really just be mindful of how much media you're taking in terms of news information and how much of that you can limit and really, really boil that down to, 10, 20, 30 minutes like tops for a day of what you're taking in. Not about not being informed. It's just about really recognizing that overdoing it just gives us so much more anxiety. I hope you have a wonderful third day and I'll see you tomorrow.